James Harden getting him up pregame before he and the Rockets take on the Pelicans. He had 40 in the win over Orlando the other night, which means his January scoring average went down. That's coming up at the top of the hour as the players-only franchise returns to TNT. Pelicans and Rockets coming up. Grant Hill will be part of that broadcast along with Isaiah Thomas, Jason Terry, and Caron Butler. And as you can see, here he is in the flesh, or at least on TV, joining us from Houston. Grant, there aren't many storylines that can steal the spotlight away from what James Harden has been doing, but this Anthony Davis thing has people talking. What is the ripple effect around the league for you?
Well, Matt, you're right. I mean, James Harden's been great, particularly this last 4 to 6 weeks. But Anthony Davis, the news of his desire to be traded and traded soon from the New Orleans Pelicans is certainly on everyone's mind, particularly here in Houston, as we had a chance to visit with Mike D'Antoni and Alvin Gentry, and just a lot of unknown, a player of his magnitude, the options, what's going to happen moving forward. The Pelicans going to quickly try and do something now prior to the trade deadline, or will they wait until the summer? So just a lot of unknowns right now, but the thing we do know is that obviously he wants out of New Orleans, and the big question is, where will he go? He's the kind of player that can have a huge impact if depending upon where he goes and who he may or may not partner up with. So a lot of excitement, a lot of intrigue. Certainly something on tonight's broadcast I'm sure we'll talk about quite a bit, but certainly the news of the NBA at this moment.
I imagine you will be discussing that a fair amount. The tentacles of this thing are so far-reaching around the league, including the balance of power in whichever conference he lands in. Meanwhile, Harden's numbers in January are just absurd. And now Chris Paul has returned to the lineup. So in your mind, how close are the Rockets to being where they were last season when they wound up winning 65 games?
Yeah, it's a great question, Matt. They're closer. I think early in the year, obviously, they're a different team. They weren't as talented. Mike D'Antoni was starting rookies, even guys who were undrafted rookies. So different roles. They were struggling. They managed to sort of maintain their confidence and spirit through that stretch. Chris Paul went down. And James Harden went crazy and obviously has played at an MVP caliber rate. But I think bringing in a Kenneth Faried when Capella went down has been huge. He was kind of on that bench there, lost in Denver. You move him now to the center position. He's one of the best at setting screens and rolling to the basket and plays with a tremendous amount of energy. Austin Rivers has come over, a veteran who is a really good on-the-ball defender. Now you're getting Chris Paul back. Capella's coming back. So I think this team is trending in the right direction. Obviously, you have to give a lot of credit to James Harden, but I think the personnel has gotten better since the team that they had at the start of the season. Harden is in obviously tip-top form and is great shape right now and playing elite basketball. And then you're getting Chris Paul back, which I think will help, because the big question is, can Harden continue at this pace, throughout the entire season into the postseason? They're going to need Chris Paul to be healthy and productive for them to try to have a run like they had last season.
Grant, Capella played such an important part, especially with Harden on the floor. I mean, this guy was seventh in the league in rebounding, third in field goal percent. All these things that he had done, all-star basically performance by Capella. They lose him and bring in a guy who had almost vanished away from the NBA as far as getting minutes on the floor, getting an opportunity to play. What has Mike D'Antoni said about Faried coming in now and the role he's playing?
Well, Mike D'Antoni, I played for Mike D'Antoni. Dave Griffin, obviously, we were all out there in Phoenix together. He always used to say that the ball finds energy. And there may not be a big guy in the league that has the kind of energy that a Kenneth Faried. I think in Denver, obviously he became the manimal. He played at an elite level, was on the Olympic team at one point, or the U.S. World Championship basketball team. And then Jokic came in, and all of a sudden fours are expected to be able to shoot from the perimeter. That wasn't his game, but it was the perfect timing. There was a void here, Capella being out. He's come in, playing more of the five position, setting screens, rolling to the basket, finishing. When Capella was out for that 10-game stretch, they weren't getting baskets at the rim. They were shooting even more three-pointers with a P.J. Tucker at the center position. But Fareed now sort of plays that diver role, and he dives so hard that you have to really, defensively guarding Houston, you have to make an adjustment. You have to make the proper read. And so now getting back to that basketball that they're accustomed to playing. And Fareed, when Capella comes back, now you have two bigs who can come in and play and give you different looks both on offense and on defense. And then, of course, Chris Paul getting back in the mix. So this team, like I said, is moving in the right direction. But Fareed has been huge, and certainly Mike D'Antoni's been very happy.
Grant, one of the things I think that gets lost in all of this Anthony Davis talk is exactly how good Drew Holiday's been this season and the burden he's been carrying. He's had to play 9 games without AD as it is, and he's probably been their most consistent player. What does Alvin say about Drew and the season he's had and where they go from here?
Yeah, Dave, we talked about Drew with Alvin. He just said he's been solid, he's been consistent. Nothing phases him. He'll come out and be a professional, play at a high level. And you're right, with all the talk this year of Anthony Davis and what's his future, and obviously the news here in the last 48 hours, Drew Holiday is putting up all-star numbers, and 20 points, 8 assists. Obviously would be in the all-star game if New Orleans was in the playoff picture. But quietly under the radar, just going about his business, playing great. And, it's interesting. One of the things we talked about, and certainly Drew Holiday plays a role, we talked about this with Alvin, when they've had all their guys healthy, all the guys that played in their, top 7, 8-man rotation, they've been 7-3 this year. And they just, the injuries and AD being out, Mirotic, at times Randall was out, Peyton was out for 31 games early in the year. This team doesn't have great depth, and not having these guys healthy has really hurt them, and you never really got a chance to see what this team could do after the success of last season in the postseason. So, but Drew Holiday, he has been a mainstay, and he's been someone who, even against Houston, he's guarded James Harden well. The games they played prior, he's, been able to, really keep him off the three-point line, not foul him, make him a two-point shooter. And if you look at the numbers, has actually done a pretty good job head-to-head, and I imagine we'll get a lot of that tonight.
Injuries a factor again tonight for the Pelicans. Julius Randle is out. Etuan Moore is going to rest tonight. Elfrid Payton also out with the ankle injury, in addition, of course, to Anthony Davis. Grant Hill, though, fit as a fiddle and ready to broadcast at the top of the hour. Players only tonight. It's the Pelicans and the Rockets. We'll see you then.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Much more coming up here on Game Time between now and the start of that game. The Anthony Davis story is of some interest to the folks in Los Angeles. We'll get the perspective from out there when we come back. Drew Holiday getting set to go in Houston tonight in the middle of what could be maybe his best season as a pro. He's had some really good ones, former All-Star in the Eastern Conference as well. Hasn't shown up in the win column, and the Pelicans are in danger of falling out of relevance in the West. Here's Holiday with Caron Butler ahead of a players-only Tuesday night.
Here with Drew Holiday, can you just talk to me about your mindset coming in here playing the Rockets today?
Right, really good team. We've all seen what James has been doing. Do our best to try to corral him and stop him from scoring 40 points. Run him off the three-point line. That's what they love to do, and also keep James off the free throw line.
Yeah. So I guess you're going to get the first crack at him, or obviously a crack at him. So how would you slow him down, being one of the best two-way guys in the game?
Honestly, just try to keep him guessing. Sometimes play him up close, make him drive. Sometimes play off of him. Try to be handsy, but in a way that it doesn't cause fouls, and really rely on my teammates. Drive down there into the big to be able to block or make him pass it out for a three, and from there we're gonna have to rotate.
I know this is one of the tough times for the organization right now with AD news coming out. You said that based upon him and his future, 90% of the reason you was here because of him. Can you just speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, he's top 3 in the world. His athletic ability, what he can do as an athlete, as a player, even a friend. I've been with him for 6 years, so I feel like for me, coming around a talent of that caliber was kind of once in a lifetime, and we had a good thing going. So, but on that note, man, Anthony's doing everything he's doing best for himself, and I'm not mad at that. He's the ultimate professional. He still comes here and works, and still cheers for his team. So I'm happy for him.
Last question: does that change anything with your future going forward?
As of right now, no. I'm here to play basketball. Today, specifically, I'm here to try to beat the Houston Rockets. So go out there, give it my all, and try to exhaust myself and play as hard as I can.
Hey, good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, bro. Guys.
Interesting thoughts from Drew Holiday there, and got to deal with that guy tonight. James Harden and the Rockets. Chris Paul back in the lineup. They've won 3 in a row and 4 of their last 5 as they get set to go against the Pels. Chris Paul played 25 minutes the other night after returning from that hamstring injury. 12 points, 5 boards, 6 assists on 4 of 8 shooting. He is back tonight as the Rockets take on the Pelicans. Here's Mike D'Antoni on his point guard and his second game back.
Well, I think we have to do it that way. I don't think Chris enjoys that. He'd rather stay in and play, but we need to be cautious here next couple weeks, and then he'll eventually get back up to 30, 31, where we'd like to keep him.
Have you ever done something like they've got going where it's out there, what the limbo that they seem to be in now?
No, not really. No, it's kind of odd.
How tough of a thing is that
Well,
to keep the focus?
that's tough. You'd have to be inside the locker room, and I can't. This never happened to me, and I'm not over there, so I will have no clue.
Even just the game or two before a trade deadline can be somewhat tense.
Well, most players get a little nervous about them, but it happens to everybody in the sense of everybody knows that it's a business, and that's part of the deal. But you got to keep focused and get through it. And I'm sure there's a lot of players like to get to the other side of the deadline so that they can stay at home, but that's just part of business.
When you think about what you guys have done, in a sense, adding Austin Rivers, adding Kenneth Faried, kind of making deadline deals in the middle of the season, have really worked out, have they not?
Oh, it's really worked out, and especially with all the injuries that both those guys have saved us and got us into a position where we are now. We've added them to a pretty good team, so as soon as we get everybody back, we'll see what we got, but it looks promising for sure.
Do you guys, is it too early to get progress updates on Clint and how he's doing and everything?
He's laying in the sun, I'm sure. He's just out there in California somewhere. It's something he has to heal. He'll be ready to go when it's time.